We are live. Welcome. Thank you so much for logging on to JYY's Facebook page. And today we have a very, very important discussion that we're going to be talking about. Every parent that has a child that's been feeling just down and not right during the pandemic, you're definitely going to want to check this video out. Let me introduce my first guest. Okay, I'm going to try it. You ready? Kate Fleming. Here we go. Kate, she is from the Community Behavioral Health Associates. Kate, did I say it right? Is she there? Where'd you go? Kate, are you there? Hold on, let me see if Jodie's here. Jodie's there.
I'm here, and you got it right. I'm great, thank you.
I did get it right. Kate, are you with us? Where'd Kate go? Oh no! Oh, there's Kate right there. How are you, Kate?
I missed everything that you said, but hello.
Hold on, Jodie, can you verify?
I can verify he got it right.
Mic drop. Yes. My good friend Kate Fleming, she's here. And if Kate looks familiar, she was on with me just the other day with her two beautiful future billionaire daughters, entrepreneurs who are selling bookmarks to help benefit the New Hampshire Food Bank. You must be such a proud mom for that one, Kate.
I am. And I do want to say, because Jodie's here, that kind of how that came about was that my youngest daughter was really struggling with remote learning. And, we kind of transitioned her into something else to kind of get her engaged with, to get her feeling good about herself, because it's been much harder on her than it is on my other daughter. And that was just something that we weren't really expecting. So finding those little tricks and ways to help children through that has been great. And making
my favorite part of that is Parker's statement. Her statement is, "It was my idea." I think that's brilliant. I think when your daughters are walking down the aisle someday, I'm sorry, I don't mean to scare you. I know that's many, many years from now, but one of them is going to remind the other one of that statement when they were 8 and 6. It is just so cute. Yeah. All right, before we get going, before we turn it over to Jodie, Kate, please explain to everybody what you do and how you help not just the community here in Concord, but around the entire state.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with the New Hampshire Community Behavioral Health Association, and CBA is made up of the 10 community mental health centers around New Hampshire. What that basically means is we offer mental health services to everyone across the state if we need to. Every corner, every town, we are there. And we offer a variety of services, adults, children, elderly, and all of that information on where you can find your local mental health center is at nhcbha.org. So that's kind of the gist of it. So Jodie, who's here with us today, is the Child and Adolescent and Family Services Director for the Seacoast Mental Health Center, which is one of the 10 community mental health centers in the state.
So welcome, Jodie. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you.
And you know what? This is something that's very near and dear to me. Kate and I have had many conversations over the last couple of months just about how important your mental health is. It's just as important as your physical and everything else. And I'm very open about the fact that I have been speaking to a professional, and I really, really feel that it's part of your wellness checkup. Yeah. You get a physical, you should check with a professional, and especially over the last year that we have been through. We've all gone through some mental anguish. Now, Jodie, let me ask you, do you find that you're treating more people now this year because of the pandemic than in years past?
I would say absolutely. I think this last year has been such an unknown year for everybody. Mm-hmm. And when you think about what we've experienced over this last year, just the number of losses, and what I've really framed it as is that we've all went through this experience of grief, and grief doesn't have to be losing someone to death. It's really losing life as we once knew it. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because none of us are immune to it. I think when we think about the different changes and how quickly we all had to pivot, it was about a year ago, this week last year that we were making this quick pivot to this unknown that for many of us, we thought it'll be 2 weeks. And here we are a year later, and we're all starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we are seeing just the massive burden it has had upon everybody, whether it's having to assume multiple roles within your household, whether it's having to just adjust to this kind of change of life as you once knew it. And we're certainly seeing more and more individuals across the lifespan enter care at our 10 community mental health centers. And, one of the things that I want to just add real quickly is one of the things that we have the ability to do across our system is to offer care regardless of the ability to pay. And so it makes mental health services accessible to everybody across our state, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very important.
Absolutely. So I had a question for you, Jodie, because a lot of people that I know kind of in my mom group have talked about themselves experiencing something that is unfamiliar to them, like depression. And, but not only that, their child is exhibiting things that are just, I don't want to say out of character, but kind of what does that look like, or what should parents and families be looking for, and how do we help them if they don't really have experience with any, mental health supports previous to this?
Right. Well, I actually like the phrase out of character, because one of the things that we really talk about with parents or caregivers, any adult that plays a role in a child's life, is you're going to be the one to see the differences before anybody else. So if you start to see changes in your child's behavior that is unlike them, this is when we start to kind of watch and observe. I don't think it means jump right away to a provider, but it's really looking for some telltale signs. Parents are going to know best, caregivers are going to know best when they start to see changes in mood. So if you have a child who's generally really gregarious and outgoing and happy, and you start to see their mood decline, and it lasts more than a day, right? Because we all have those moments where we get the everyday blues, we just wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It's okay to be that way for a day, maybe 2 days. But when we start to see that persist longer, it's carrying on, no matter how we try to intervene as a parent or as a caregiver, as a loved one, to help lift their spirit, and they're still just in this place that we don't know them or are accustomed to them being in, I think then that's when we really want to start raising kind of those alarms for concern.
Now, let me ask you a question, Jodie. How can we tell the difference between that, as you just described, or as a child that's maybe getting ready to move into adolescence and their moods are changing anyway? How can we tell the difference as a parent? What's what?
Right. Well, because development plays a big role into everything as well. And so when we look at any child across their lifespan, we have to look at, their elementary development years, those prepubescent and then pubescent developmental years. And then that period of time that I call individuation, really, when young teens are starting to kind of transition into young adulthood and really looking to exert their independence. We know that there's going to be some push, some changes given typical development. But again, I think it's when we start to see this persisting, when we see changes in things like appetite, sleep patterns, isolating from others, just pulling back from friends and family members, really not finding the pleasure or wanting to engage in activities that they once enjoyed. It's really just seeing those kind of marked changes kind of across all aspects of their life, rather than just one component of it. We're seeing the irritability. And then where we really start to draw concern is when we start to see some behaviors that are really alarming or concerning. If a young person is starting to engage in the use of substances, misusing substances, whether that's drugs or alcohol, they're making statements about feeling hopeless, feeling like life would be better without them here, making direct comments about wanting to harm themselves or harm others, or thoughts of suicide. This is, again, where we really want to reach out for supports to help the young person.
Are there other signs that we should watching out? I mean, let's change it over to now as an outsider, a non-parent, like an educator or a coach or a scout leader. Are there other signs that we can watch out for? Because I know a lot of the schools are starting to open back up. A lot of the schools that have been hybrid are starting to get back to 4 or 5 day weeks. What are some of the signs that we can look for?
Right. Well, and I think that's a great point to bring up, because we have some kids who will be going back to school and haven't stepped into a classroom for over a year now. So we're going to find that there's going to be some children across the age span who are going to need a lot of support around that. They're going to feel very anxious. It's an unknown that they're going back into. And some of them will come in with worries about, can they still contract the virus? Can they pass it along to their family members? For them, school's going to look very different than it did the last time they walked into their classroom. They're going to be wearing a mask. There may be other things in place. So we certainly want to look for kids who are starting to show signs of maybe some anxiety around that. for our younger kids at the elementary school age level, we tend to get a lot of somatic complaints, or that's what we'll see. They have a tummy ache, they have a headache, they're not feeling well, they're wanting to leave to go see the nurse, and there's frequent trips to the nurse's office, which oftentimes will result in a call home, where they go home and then they feel safe again. It's not to say that we don't endorse that and support it and let them go see the nurse, but if we're starting to see that pattern tick up a little bit, then that's an opportunity to take a look and say, is this a physical illness, or is this more anxiety around the environment that they're dealing with? For some of the older kids, again, it might just be pulling away, pulling back, that if they once were somebody who was really involved in their academic environment, now that they're coming back into the school, they're not participating in clubs anymore. They're not wanting to be part of the sports team that they have always, religiously participated in. They're not engaging with coaches, peers, just pulling away, missing school, not turning in assignments. We're seeing the performance in their academics drop. Again, these are some of the signs and indicators that educators may be looking for students.
And Jodie, I think what the coolest thing, one of the cooler things that I understand about a lot of the community mental health centers, if not all of them, is that they somewhat lean on you guys for help and resources within the school. And I think that community mental health center and school connection is so important.
Absolutely.
And do you feel like, I know some centers have said this year, schools reached out to them immediately and said, help us kind of get through this together. And I think that should bring a lot of comfort to some parents to know that when they do go into the school, like it is kind of this, everyone is kind of looking out for that and aware of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Put that website up again here too, just so people can grab some great resources.
But Kate's absolutely right. I think, across the 10 centers, we all have these relationships, not only with schools within our regions, but pediatric practices as well. And I mention that because I think this goes back to one of Nazzy's questions earlier. There's not going to be a one size fits all for treatment, and everybody's kind of start their treatment journey at different places. So for some families, it might be starting with their pediatrician and talking to the pediatrician about what's going on for their child. And the pediatrician may have some really good referrals and resources based on how they know that family system. For other family systems, it may be starting with the school, talking with a guidance counselor, a school social worker, or a psychologist, but really just some early entry into receiving some services and supports. And in both of those entities, both the pediatric practices and the schools or the academic settings, they know when it's going above and beyond a need that they can meet. So when they start to see that this is a young person in a family system who really needs a full array of care outside of their setting, that's when they'll usually bridge over to a community mental health center or another provider who can meet those mental health needs at a higher level than what the school or the pediatrician can.
That makes total sense. Kate, let me ask you a question. The old school way of thinking, you don't need to talk to a shrink. That's only people do that. How would you respond to that comment, Kate? Because I mean, you like you said at the beginning of this interview, you have this wonderful network of information around the state. How would you respond to somebody who has that old school way of thinking?
Well, there are a lot of people who do still think like that, sadly. And I don't know where it comes from, but really in the end of the day, it's support. I mean, when it comes to kids, the way I see it and the way that I describe it, because I'm 100% for children getting early intervention when it comes to mental health issues, because I have someone that greatly benefited from having a place to go to kind of like unpack what's happening in me. Right. So I advocate for my kids, and I say nobody else is going to advocate for your children except for you. And what that means is you're giving them the tools to handle life. Like right now, children, and Jodie, you can pipe in here, but they're kind of raw, right? And they're getting all of this information and they don't know how to handle it. And so the way I see it and explain it is you're giving them this toolbox of things to help them with the way they feel, their thoughts, that will set them up to be able to walk through life.
To be able to handle life, to be able to handle all of the everyday stresses that are going to come at them. Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. And it's exhausting to have a child who is exhibiting any sort of, you're wondering, what did I do wrong? How do I help? And that's why, at SEBA, we've been really trying to make it clear that like you have a local center. All you really have to do is find your center and call and say, like, I need help. And I don't know what that looks like, hoping that they can.
Somebody in the background ready. Where are the centers around the state? I know definitely on the Seacoast for Jodie. Where else?
They're everywhere. They're in Concord area. They're in Nashua. They're up in the Lakes region. They're everywhere. And so and on the website is a map and all of your locations. So when I say they're everywhere, how many locations does Seacoast have, Jodie?
So we have 2 offices.
Right.
We have an office in Exeter and Portsmouth. And for most of the centers, especially across our region, have multiple offices in order for families to access care. And see, this is live video that we can't control for when a delivery person pulls into your driveway and your dogs notice it. So I apologize. Yes. I thought it controlled for all sounds, and that is my house.
That's some of the fun videos that have come out of the pandemic. You know, like the dogs barking, the husband walking through in his underwear asking where his shorts are.
Right.
Yes. But the other thing that I think has been, if we're to find a silver lining for what's happened during this time, it's that use of telehealth. And so even, when I think about in our region, Deerfield is our furthest town out from our offices in Portsmouth and Exeter. And I know and understand that that was a barrier for many of our families who lived out in Deerfield to get into either one of those offices. Then, especially when you have multiple children and multiple schedules to juggle. And with the use of telehealth, we have made accessing mental health care easier and more convenient for everyone. So that's something that all 10 centers are doing, for families who maybe have connectivity issues, maybe don't have access to the devices to do telehealth. Telephonic is available as well. So if we were to say, hey, what are the silver linings? We've reduced barriers to care in so many ways by having different platforms where we can offer mental health care.
The pandemic has absolutely helped us grow. I think we've all grown technologically over the last year. I wouldn't have known what this program was a year ago. I didn't know.
Yeah. And I remember when COVID hit a year ago and the mental health centers, the community mental health centers worked really hard to stand up telehealth and services because they wanted people to know we are open, we are here, because everything was closing down. And so having that ability to continue with services, and now I think it's just going to even be something that you offer going forward now.
Yeah, I think this is going to stick around. I really do. All right, final thought. Let me toss it over to you, Jodie. A parent who is at their wit's end, they don't know how to talk to their child about the pandemic. They don't know how to handle it because they're having a hard time themselves. What advice would you give that parent, Jodie? Oh, she froze. Oh, no. The delivery man caught up with her. Well, I'll tell you what, while we're waiting, she'll be back in a second, I'm sure. Let me ask you the same question. A parent, we lost her, but she'll be back. A parent that's having a hard time, wit's end, what advice would you give to them?
My advice would be to reach out and ask for help, to first of all, not feel like you're alone, because so many people are going through this. Schools are fantastic resources. And they, like I said, they work with a lot of the community mental health centers. And then going to a website and knowing your resources, going to SEBA and going on there and saying, where's my local center? I need help. That is key, because that is really the first step you have to take, is to just say, I don't really know what to do, but I know I need help. So reaching out to your community, your schools, and your community mental health centers.
And let me just continue on what you said. It is okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
I know it sounds cliche at this point. We've been saying it for a year, but we really are all in this together.
Yeah.
And it's okay to every once in a while break down and not be okay. It's okay to feel that way. But what you need to know is there are people who care. There are people that can help you, and we are going to get through this.
Yeah. And there's a system of a network of community mental health centers that are here for you. I mean, they are here for you,
Yep.
ready and waiting for you to call and get the help that you need.
The information is there. Well, Kate,
Yep.
I want to thank you.
Yeah. Sad about Jodie.
Thank Jodie too. And that's been another problem with 2020 and 2021. Connectivity issues.
Yes.
Wi-Fi.
We're all doing our best.
Oh, wait. I think she's back. Wait a minute. Here she is. We'll let Jodie be able to say goodbye. Welcome back, Jodie.
Lost our power. So here we go.
No.
Yes, the
I
power
just pretended
went
that
out.
was you.
Yeah, it was us.
Wow.
So I am so sorry for that.
It's okay.
Don't be sorry. It's like I said, it's the curse of 2020, 2021. It continues.
Nazzy, I want to ask Jodie that question again.
Please.
About Nazzy had said, as a parent, if you're at your wit's end and you don't know what to do, what should you do? I mean, my advice was to reach out and ask for help, whether that's through your school or, going to the website and finding your community mental health center and saying, I don't know what I need, but I need help.
Right. I think first and foremost, it's okay to be at our wit's end too. It's been a long year. And when I think about parents, again, here I am working from home, and I can tell Kate's, in her home as well. You start to assume multiple roles. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm a parent, I'm an employer, I'm an employee, I'm a spouse, I'm a caregiver, I'm a dog owner, as you all heard a little bit ago. And when we wrap up today, I'm closing the lid on my device, and that's how my workday ends, and I immediately go into more roles. Whereas when we were in our work environments, I had that half-hour commute home where I could decompress a little bit. I shifted from work to home, home to work. Right. And I don't think parents especially have fully understood how much they lost their probably decompression and self-care time. Sometimes commuting was that. And so first of all, none of us are perfect. And we're all going to have really difficult days. And it's okay to ask for help, whether that's from your co-parent, your spouse, another family member, from professional help. Again, there's no one size fits all. For anybody who's connected to a faith community, maybe it's your faith leader that's offering help. Again, your primary care, your therapist, but there is so much help out there and so many different opportunities to access it. And so I think when we start to feel that our buttons are pushed, very much like kids, if we're seeing it happen more and more every day, multiple times a day, that's probably an indicator for us that we need a little bit more support right now. Somebody needs to scoop us because we've been doing too much scooping.
Yeah.
That's so very true. I didn't even think about that. That ride home, that's where we kind of take off the work hat, put on the parent hat. We don't have that anymore. And and I'm thinking about what my wife's going through, because my wife, and she hates it when I talk about her, but it's a great example. She is a paraprofessional, so she helps students at school get their work done, and she's at home helping my son across the other end of the table doing the same thing. So by the time I get home late at night, you could see the blood pressure boiling in her, and she doesn't have that opportunity to have that 15-20 minute ride. You know what I mean? To just listen to the radio, listen to JYY, and go from there.
Yeah. I think we lost Jodie again.
Did we lose Jodie? I thought she was just standing very still.
Yeah.
Regardless, Kate, you know what? I think we have touched on something great here. Yeah. I think we need to keep these conversations going. Yep. I feel very, very strongly about mental health. I feel very strongly about letting them know that it's okay to not be okay, letting them know that there is help available. We need to keep these discussions going.
Absolutely.
Can you help me make that happen?
I'm gonna help you, because it's
have wonderful professionals like Jodie that can make that happen.
Yep, tons of them all over the state.
Awesome, excellent.
Yeah, okay, thanks for bringing this topic to light, Nazzy. It's very important.
It has to be. It should not be a whisper in the back of your head anymore. Yep. We have all absorbed too much over this year, and it's time to let it out. It's time to heal. It's time to talk about it.
Yep.
It's time to talk about it.
Yep.
And I think we should leave it on that.
All right.
All right.
Thank you
very much.
All right.
Thank you, Kate.
We'll see you later.